Mesechta Megillah, Daf Chavav Amud Beis. We'll start from the beginning of the Mishnah. Do quicker what we did from yesterday. We are starting a new Perek, a new chapter. Chapter 4 in Mesechta Megillah. Gemara, chapter 3 in Mesechta Megillah Mishnayos. The order is switched around. Here we were discussing mainly the halachas of a shul. How to build a shul, what funds you could use to build a shul, the Aron Kodesh, and everything else that comes along with a shul. Then we're going to read about the different Torah readings that we read throughout the year, whether it's on Yom Tov, whether it's the 4 parshas, the 4 Torah portions that we read leading up to Pesach, which this week is the last one of Parshas HaChodesh. Rabbi Chaim of Lublin writes that since when Jewish people entered the Holy Land of Israel, there were 3 mitzvahs that they had to do. One mitzvah was to appoint a king, the next mitzvah to destroy Amalek, next mitzvah to build the Beis HaMikdash, and the first 3 Jewish kings successively did that. First came Shaul, who was appointed as king. He started fighting Amalek, but was finished by David HaMelech. And later on, Shlomo built the Beis HaMikdash. So after we learned about the Megillah, which is destroying Amalek, Haman came from Amalek. So now we are going to discuss the next halachas of building the Beis HaMikdash, which is building a shul. So the Mishnah starts. Morning Shalom Reb Label. The people of the city, and when it means people of the city, the Rashba and the Rashi, they write over here, means the representatives of the city, those who are either elected by the public to be in charge of the city, or those who are just never elected, but sort of self-appointed, but nobody really objected to them being in charge of the city. Doesn't have to mean every single person in the city. You're never going to have everybody agreeing on everything, especially if you have many Jews in the city. So the people of the city, the majority of the people of the city, they sold the square of the city. We're going to go on a pyramid from lower level of holiness to higher level of holiness. Of course, is your house, is your bedroom, which should be a place of holiness. Is sort of like you have here in front of the Kollel. In front of the Kollel, in front of the western wall, you have the area where people daven. You have some covered areas on the right and the left. Then you have in front over here, that's where people usually daven. And a few times a year, it gets very full. And they daven even in this back area, in this section, that will be like a city square. And there's certain times of the year, particularly fast days, where we learn to Mesechta Tainis, that we take the Aron Kodesh out of the shul and we bring it into the city square for several reasons. Either because the Sefer Torah is in exile in Galus, or because you need it for the big crowd that comes on a fast day where it's Asar b'Melacha, you cannot work. So since occasionally it's used as a shul, this plaza is called the Kollel Plaza. Right? So it's occasionally used as a shul. It has a name of a shul on it. So therefore, if you want to sell it, a developer comes to town, wants to build condos, you have to and you want to sell it, you can only sell it if you're going to buy with it something of an equal or higher kedusha of holiness, which the Mishnah will list out several things which are holy, one more than the next. So so more holy than the actual city square, of course, holier than that. The morning Reb Baruch, Shalom Aleichem. Holier than that is a shul itself. Shul we're sitting in right now. Every shul in the world. You're allowed to sell it to buy a shul. A shul you're not allowed to sell. This is a famous thing going on all over the world. Unfortunately, many shuls all over the world, which are sold to things which are the opposite of kedusha, of holiness. You're not allowed to sell a shul. There's 4 things you can never sell a shul to. And everything else you could sell a shul for, but just not and using money to buy something more holy. You cannot sell a shul to be a church. You cannot sell a shul to be a nightclub, place of immorality. You cannot sell a shul to be a place where something's smelly, like a tannery or a sewage plant. You cannot sell a shul for those things. Everything else you're allowed to sell a shul for. What?
Not a laundry.
A laundry also?
When I was involved with
Interesting.
shul, somebody came and said, he will guarantee every expense to the shul.
Wow.
He will never have any problem. The only thing he wants in exchange is a separate bank account from the shul's name, over which only he will have signatory.
Wow. No. That's a big no.
And we said that it will be, we want all of them to know that hundreds of thousands of dollars will be going through that account.
Absolutely not.
And the big Rabbanim in Crown Heights, of course, what's the problem?
Wow.
Just do it. And I said, I was the only one. I said, one of the things you cannot sell a shul for is a laundry. I don't care if you're laundering clothes or you're
Laundering money. Wow.
We're not doing it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we have Baruch Hashem here, Rabbi Karp, who was very instrumental in being personally in saving, and being very, very involved in saving the Maple Street shul. And it's still a shul today, Baruch Hashem, and now it's a full.
Then there was a second. People come along all the time. They wanted to get involved. And you guys are crazy. There's no mortgage on the building. Take a mortgage. We'll invest it. We'll make money. I said, listen, want to get involved? Show your sincerity. Next time it snows, take care of it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Get a guy. Go find one and bring him and take out the shovels and the ice melt.
Yeah.
And then you pay him and come back tomorrow morning because it snowed again. And that was the end of their interest.
Right. So to sell a shul, you don't do. You only do it if it's the shul is not sustainable anymore, etc. Maybe at the end we'll have a very interesting shuvah from Moshe Feinstein about the city of Hadich, where the Alter Rebbe's oil is during communism. He was in Russia in Luban till about 1931 or 32, not sure exactly. And he has a very interesting shuvah about selling the shul in Hadich. We'll get to that soon. Loichin Beis HaKnesses, Loichin Teva. Now, we don't have the background on today for the very simple reason that we have all the props. Okay, so let me make it maybe a little larger here, so you can see the props a little bigger. So if you have a shul cannot be sold unless you buy with it another shul or something holier, which is a teva. Teva can mean one of three things: either an Aron Kodesh, a box to hold the Sefer Torah. Some say the teva means this box, the wooden box of the bima where you read the Aron Kodesh on. And some say where you read the Sefer Torah, where you lean the bima. And some say the teva means the cases which are surrounding, like in the Sephardi Sefer Torah. And I think yesterday, Renedich said he might have some time to do some homework. What's the divergence of the Sephardi Sefer Torah, Ashkenazi Sefer Torah? But the Sephardi Sefer Torah have a case around the Torah. We have a picture of it somewhere. Not sure exactly. So,
by the way, I forgot to say that after that, Eli Blochman and I, we put out an advertisement in the Jewish Week, saying that there's the shul, there's a few older people that come, and we made an appeal. A check came for $15,000 from something called the Seacoast Foundation.
yeah.
No address, no return address. We looked for years to try to find who these people were, wanted to thank them, honor them at a dinner. Nothing.
Interesting. That's
Unbelievable.
fascinating. Wow. Baruch Hashem. Hashem sends 15. Hashem sends Liya Kasef Liya Zavnu Hashem. Hashem says money and gold and money belongs to him. Unbelievable. Next, Beis HaKnesses, Loichin Teva, you're allowed to sell a shul only to buy from it an Aron Kodesh, something closer to the Sefer Torah, to the holier part. Teva Loichin Mitpachas. To sell an Aron Kodesh, you're not allowed to unless you're getting a nicer Aron Kodesh. There's many beautiful Aron Kodeshes out there in the world. Or to buy mitpachas. Mitpachas are, let's say, a mantle, the belt for the Sefer Torah, a mantle for a Sefer Torah, an Eitz Chaim for a Sefer Torah. We're lucky to be in a room where we have an Aron Kodesh behind us, where there's several Sefer Torah which are waiting to be fixed. Which are and
What's a wimple? We don't use a wimple, right? A wimple.
which is
I know, it's something that also that they put on the site, that the Germans do.
I'm not sure.
The Yankees do.
Mitpakas also means these type of things, a breastplate, things which are used to wrap. And as far as Sefer Torah, mitpakas can mean the cloth, which we showed yesterday, a cloth that you put on top of the Sefer Torah box. They put like a cloth wrapping around the two protrusions at the top. So these things, since they actually are on the actual Sefer Torah itself, they adorn the Sefer Torah, they beautify it, they protect it. So then you are allowed to buy, you're allowed to sell them only in order to buy, you're allowed to sell an Aron Kodesh in order to buy a wrapping cloth for a Sefer Torah. Next Amud. Mitpachas Yichus Farim. You're allowed to sell the covers of a Sefer Torah in order to buy. Svarim are individual scrolls, not of the entire Torah, but rather of Navi or Ksuvim, a book of Yeshua written on parchment. These are the same level of sanctity as a Sefer Torah, but since they're individual books, it's a single individual Sefer. It doesn't have this full level of sanctity as a Sefer Torah. So therefore, they have to be kept in Aron Kodesh, but they don't have the same level of holiness, and you cannot sell a Sefer Torah to get Nevi'im and Ksuvim. But they're written like a Sefer Torah on parchment, sewn with the gidden, with veins, the entire thing. That's a Sefer Svarim. So far we've had 5 levels: city square, shul, the Aron Kodesh, the covering of the Sefer Torah, the individual book of Tanakh, and now the 6th one is Sefer Torah itself. Svarim Leichin Torah. You could sell a book of Nevi'im and Ksuvim, of an individual book, and with it buy a full Sefer Torah. That's a higher level of holiness, even more than the individual books, which is interesting. It says on Rosh Hashanah, the Ran writes, that we say, Malchios Zkainim Shofros. Each one of them, we mentioned 10 verses of Hashem's kingdom, Hashem's remembrances. We do 3 psukim from Torah, 3 from Nevi'im, 3 from Ksuvim. Which seems like there's a difference between Nevi'im and Ksuvim. It seems that Nevi'im, the prophets, are holier than Ksuvim because we go in that order. It says also that you're allowed to put Nevi'im on top of Ksuvim and Torah on top of Nevi'im. But you can't put Ksuvim on top of Nevi'im and can't put Nevi'im on top of Torah. So maybe you should be allowed to sell Ksuvim to buy Nevi'im, but you can't sell Nevi'im to buy Ksuvim. Because Ma'alim HaKodesh Imiridin can only go up in holiness. Now the answer is because David HaMelech wrote Tehillim, which is in Ksuvim. And since what David HaMelech wrote, it says it's considered to be in the same level of Kedusha as the Torah itself, and we say that, and we say many more psukim of Tehillim on Rosh Hashanah than we say psukim of Malchios, Zkainim, and Tiferes. So therefore, we say Nevi'im and Ksuvim are almost interchangeable over here. Now, there's a rule: we only go up in Kedusha and holiness. How do we see that? It says Betzalel was from Shevet Yehuda. He built the Mishkan. The one who put it together on every single day of the 8 days from last week's parasha, this week's parasha, Tzav and Shmini, of the dedication of the Mishkan was Moshe Rabbeinu himself. And he took it down and he did it himself. Why couldn't someone else do it? Because you go up in holiness. First Betzalel did it, and Moshe put it together. Once Moshe put it together, no one else could take it apart. And that's what happened every single day. He miraculously put together the entire Mishkan all 8 days. And the 8th day, it stood standing for the next year and a half till they left Har Sinai. Where do you see they cannot go down in holiness? So we know the famous story of Korach. Korach rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu. And him and his men, that's just a joke of Korach we did yesterday. So Korach and his men, They brought Tiferes, they brought incense in front of the Mishkan, thinking, each held their pans, that maybe Hashem will accept their carbon, their sacrifice. Ended up, Hashem only accepted Aaron's, none of theirs. Korach, Dasan, Aviram, and their families were swallowed up by the ground. The 250 men got burnt, but the pans stayed over. The word was censers. Right? The censers stayed over, and when we're done with it, and Lazar, the Kohen, the son of Aaron a Kohen, a Gadol, should take them and hammer them out and make them the 250 pans into a covering for the Mizbeach. Why? They were sanctified, as Rashi says, asom klisharis. They were made into service vessels of the Beis HaMikdash. You could never reuse them for anything less holy than that. And there's a rule, ein meridin, you can't lower anything down in holiness. If you have an assistant Kohen Gadol, which Kohen Gadol couldn't serve on Yom Kippur, and he replaced him, he never goes back to being a regular Kohen. Now, and he can't be a Kohen Gadol, so he's sort of in limbo until he could take over as Kohen Gadol. A member of Sanhedrin, who was in the second row of benches behind Sanhedrin, listening to proceedings, and he had something to contribute, they bring him up to Sanhedrin, and they never bring him down. Because you only go up in holiness. If yesterday you did something good, today you do only better, more and more and more. So we actually learn from Korach a special thing of Mailim B'Kodesh Ve'ein Meridin. How do you know? So now we're going to go in the opposite direction, how you can't go down. If they sold a Sefer Torah, you cannot buy a single book of Tanakh with it. Because now you're going to buy an item of lesser sanctity, and you can't demote, you can't go down in holiness. The Rebbe will tell many people, they're saying they're getting older in years, they don't have much strength, they don't want to give as many shiurim, give as many classes, learn as much Torah. And the Rebbe says, there's a rule, Mailim HaKodesh, you can only go up more in holiness. You're not allowed to decrease, and if you have a desire to go less, it's a sign that you're not doing enough. Now you have to add on even more. Mm-hmm. There's Rabbi Safran in England. He turned 42. And he felt he was getting older, didn't have as much strength. Maybe some people at 42 feel like, oh, we wish we were 42 again. And he told the Rebbe that, he wants to sort of go down a little bit, so sort of take it a little easier. And the Rebbe told him, I just turned 70. Mm-hmm. And when I turned 70, I made 71 new institutions, new Chabad Mostes institutions all over. So now you turned 42, you should do 43 new projects, 43 new things. And so those who knew him said that with time, he actually made 43 new initiatives. Some of them were learning and reading with certain individuals, but he made 43 new initiatives after that. And I think he didn't ask that question again. So you cannot go down, if you sell a Sefer Torah, you cannot buy Sfarim, individual books of Nach, Sfarim, Nichum Mitpachas. If you sold an individual book of Nach, you cannot use the funds to buy the covers of a Sefer Torah. Mitpachas, Lichoteva, if you're selling covers of Sefer Torah, you can't use the funds to buy an Aron Kodesh. Pidyon Shvoyim, yes, we'll get to that. We'll have talk right after Mesa Hashem. Teva, Lichu, Beis HaKnesses, you're not allowed to sell a Aron Kodesh to buy a shul with it, and Beis HaKnesses and you're not allowed to sell a shul in order to buy a square where you have an overflow shul.
Does the money?
Rabbi Karp asked a good question: are you allowed to sell it for Pidyon Shvoyim? And the answer, as I understand, is you're allowed to if there's no other resources available.
Does the money
was done in the Beis HaMikdash, that they send the treasures of the Beis HaMikdash to certain kings in order to appease them. The Romans, the Persians, the Nebuchadnezzar. Now, was it right or wrong? That's another question. I mentioned yesterday a story of a certain individual. His name was Rabbi Reuben. He became very close to the Rebbe, had many secret missions with the Rebbe afterwards. He was never a chassid. But during World War II, and he was in Holland, and so he was in Amsterdam, and he was disguised as a non-Jew. And he found out that there's many Jewish families who are in hiding by different, people which are hiding them, but they want to get paid every single week a certain amount of money, or they threaten to turn them out on the street. So and the Germans went and of course, they took away all Jewish possessions, all Jewish accounts, and in the shul, they took all the gold and silver ornaments of Sefer Torah that was for hundreds of years that were stored for hundreds of years, and in the shuls, and they gathered it all in attic of the shul, and whatever they were going to do with it, they were going to decide either make it a museum, because they were planning on making a museum of the Jews, or something, or whatever they were going. It was locked up in an attic in a shul, and he went in and he broke. It was locked and sealed. He broke the seal, broke the lock. He stole everything from there. He melted down all the crowns and all the pointers and everything from the Sefer Torah. He took gold and silver. He got money, and with this, he was able to help save many Jewish families. So yes, definitely, a Jewish life comes above everything. And we mentioned before, when it came to the 6-Day War, and the Israeli army refused to bomb the old city of Jerusalem. They wanted to capture it intact. Unfortunately, many karbanis, many Jewish soldiers fell as a result. And we see similar today, unfortunately, happening in Gaza. And the Rebbe said, and the Rebbe was so passionate and painful, how one Jewish life is worth more than any buildings they could possibly think of. Even the Kollel itself, Kollel Revii itself, it's not worth even one Jewish life. If you're going to save one Jewish life, if God forbid it has to be bombed, that's what has to be done. So for Pidyon Shvuyim, it's a very important thing. And this last word is where all of the not all, much politics has been said about these last two words of the Mishnah. V'chein yasi shalom aleichem.
That's what it says in the Mishnah. Chaim, Yosef, Shalom Aleichem.
No, shalom aleichem is.
Shalom aleichem, Levi.
Yeah, how are you? V'chein b'moisreihen, all the surplus funds, the leftover funds. If somebody wants to sell a shul, and we'll buy a new shul in a new neighborhood, in a new area. And now we have leftover money. What should we do with it? We'll make a pension for the rabbi and all the board members, right? So, such type of things go on in different places, in one form or another. So the words of the Mishnah are very clear. Bin Meisrehen, any leftover money, leftover funds, has to go only towards the shul and not towards anything else. What's unique over here about this thing, says the Sfas Emes, about the Meisrehen, that you might think to yourself, I already got a new Aron Kodesh. Let's say it was a better Aron Kodesh than the last one. I was able to do it for cheaper. Maybe I should save some of the money. We have a Mesechta Bava Metzia about Abaye and Rava, that they had an argument. If somebody was given, let's say you're a messenger for Mr. Pliny Ben Pliny, and he gave you $5, and he says, go buy 5 oranges, which are $1 each. Because they're $1 each. And you went to the store, and there was a sale that day, $4 for 5 oranges. They gave a 20% off sale, 25% off sale. So now you're left with an extra $1. Now the person who sent you had in mind that you're spending all $5. Could you keep that extra $1? If, let's say you were sent on a business trip by your company and they gave you for lodging, I don't know, let's say $150 for a hotel for a night. You decided to sleep in your car that night. Could you keep those $150? So there's an argument between Rav and Abaye about this. You might think to yourself and say that, okay, so for the shul, I managed to get the new shul and save money on the new shul. So maybe that leftover money could be used for something a little bit different, not as holy. I'll make a nice mural outside the shul. And it comes to teach you that everything has the same level of holiness. You got the best deal for the shul, great, but the extra money cannot be kept for you. So, unfortunately, it's a phenomenon of many places, and we spoke about this yesterday. and Rabbi Karp is here, one of the people involved, which is many shuls in Crown Heights, which and all over in Pittsburgh, all over the world, unfortunately, which are now today houses of exact opposite of idol worship, churches. There's in Brownsville is shows where the Frierdiker Rebbe said a mimer, and now it's a church. Frierdiker Rebbe said a mimer in the building. I lived in East Flatbush. Many of the churches have luchas in Hebrew on them.
And you go to Spain, and unfortunately, actually,
Spain, there's persecution, but here Jews sold the.
when you see churches, and inside the churches, you see Hebrew letters.
Right. So, the Frierdiker Rebbe famously said, "A shul is a shul." I do not. He does not have. A shul cannot be changed for anything else. In the city of Haditch in Russia, that's where the oil of the Alter Rebbe is, and it was a thriving Jewish community for many, many years. The Alter Rebbe wanted to be buried in Haditch, although he passed away in a small town about 90 miles away called Vienna, in the middle of the Chav Dalet Tevis, a very harsh Russian winter. And it was the harshest winter in over a century in Russia. That's the winter which killed Napoleon. Right, the winter of 1812. The winter of 1812. So during the winter, the Alter Rebbe passed away in the town of Vienna, but still, he wanted to be buried in the city of Haditch because there was a river going by in Haditch, right by the Jewish cemetery, and he wanted that people should be able to go to the mikveh before going to the oil of the Alter Rebbe. So Alter Rebbe, that was the reason he gave to be buried in Haditch. And with great personal peril, the Mittler Rebbe and Mittler Rebbe's son, I think Reb Nachum, the two of them together, they brought the Alter Rebbe to Haditch. That's where he was buried. It was great danger from, and a very eventful journey, and they were attacked by bandits, etc. So in Haditch, there was always a river. Now there was a mikveh at one point, but then came along our good old friend, the Reds, the Bolsheviks, the communists, and they closed down the mikveh. So now there's no mikveh in the city of Haditch. And for the woman, they wanted to not have to go to the river, to go to a proper mikveh. And they found there was an old shul which was not being used. They wanted to know, and there's a women's section of the shul which they had the opportunity to sell just the women's section of the shul, of the old shul. Could they sell that and build a mikveh with it? We know you're not allowed to sell a shul. But what could you do it to build a mikveh? Now, a mikveh is more important than a shul. If you only have enough money to build a mikveh or a shul, what comes first? The mikveh comes first. Because more important than the Jewish shul is Jewish home. And with the mikveh, you're able to have a kosher Jewish home. And so they were not using the women's section of a certain shul for a very long time. And they decided here's a perfect location to build the mikveh, either to sell it and build the mikveh, or build the mikveh in the actual place where the shul was. And the better option of the two was to build the mikveh in the place where the shul was. So they wanted to know, could they build the mikveh in a place where there was one time people davening? Good question. Could they build the mikveh where the women's section of the shul was? You're not allowed to sell a shul to be a bathhouse, to be a laundry, a laundromat, to be something smelly like a tannery, a sewage plant. And in general, you're not allowed to sell a shul unless you have the leaders of the community, the Shiva Tovei Ir, which allow you to sell the shul. Hey, Ira, welcome. Ira Hakayin.
What's happening?
Oh, now that you're here, everyone could breathe the Baruch Hashem, a big sigh of relief. We hear your voice. Nice.
What time do you start? 11:30?
11:10.
Okay, I don't get notified till like 11. I don't know. Okay.
I'm saying the notifications sometimes takes time.
Whatever, continue.
Okay, Shkoyach, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining, Ira.
I'll send you the bill.
Ira, I forgot to send you the advertisement bill.
Okay. You know, I'm just kidding you.
So they wanted to know, could they build a mikveh there, or could they sell the shul, the women's section, to build a mikveh? And they asked Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, right? He was a rav in the city of Luban in Russia. So could they build a shul? And we're talking about under communism, you couldn't exactly make elections, board meetings of the community. So if it would be sold, you wouldn't have the representatives of the Jewish community selling it. So Rabbi Moshe Feinstein went through all of the options, and he learned from an interesting halacha about a karban. If you have a sacrifice in the Beis HaMikdash, if you have an animal that was supposed to be brought as a karban chatas, but now it became disqualified, for example, but not on its own fault, like they got a blemish, but let's say its owners died, you cannot bring it on the Beis HaMikdash as a mizbeach, but you cannot let it go down to, you cannot let it become unholy again because it was already sanctified for the Beis HaMikdash. And if so it's sort of in a limbo type of animal, and you have to wait till it dies. But it still has a certain level of holiness inherent in it. However, if in addition to the owner's dying, there were some other aspects involved, then we say that if somebody did take advantage of it, then he's not considered stealing from the Beis HaMikdash, because the Beis HaMikdash wouldn't have had any advantage from this at any rate. So therefore, we see from there that if you have a holy object which cannot be used for its holiness, for its intended purpose at all, therefore, you're not allowed to use it for something else, but if you did, it's not a problem. It's not considered to be taking the holy object. The holiness goes away from that object. Now, a shul is like the Beis HaMikdash. Every halacha of respect for a shul, we learn from respect for the Beis HaMikdash. So the same rule of a karban in the Beis HaMikdash would apply to a shul as well. So you have a shul, which for whatever reasons, they stop using it, but there's a possibility that in the future they're going to start using it again, then you can't sell that shul. But if you have a shul where there's no a feasible way that people see that's going to ever be used again, so then you are allowed to use that shul in order to do something else of kedusha, of holiness as well, because then it's sort of like the case of the animal which cannot be brought ever as a karban in the Beis HaMikdash ever again. So it doesn't have the inherent holiness as well. So you could say the holiness goes away. So he says that if you're confident you're never going to use this woman's section as a shul again, so then the holiness of the shul goes away from it, and then you are allowed to use it for a mikvah. We see from there, from this mission, the importance of a shul. We'll go through some halachas of Yom Tif and of the month of Nisan.
Is in this case, what Rabbi Moshe Feinstein talking about the women's section specifically, or the entire shul?
So over there was a women's section, but I don't think it makes a difference will be the women's section or the men's section, because the same thoughts process would apply to both. Now, once there's no feasible way of it being used again, so then the kedusha, it goes away.
But you could apply that to a regular shul in a different neighborhood. No,
Right. So probably, the question is, why does it apply to everywhere else? So what are you doing with the funds in every other shul? If you're selling a shul to buy a new shul with it, that's fine. If you're selling a shul and the shul is closing down for good and you're not opening a new one instead, that's an issue.
thank you.
Where I lived in East Flatbush, maybe tomorrow I'll bring some pictures of it. There was a show called Young Israel of East Flatbush. Young Israel, I think it's called Young Israel of East Flatbush. And it was sold, unfortunately to a church. And you go today, and it's a very strange church over there, unfortunately. They use chauffeurs and palaces and all this random stuff in that church. And now it's becoming a Jewish community, a Jewish neighborhood again over there. But they sold all the money from that shul, they sold. And they took that money, since it was and they bought a shul in Tel Aviv in Israel. So in this shul in Tel Aviv in Israel, and I can show it to you in Google Maps, it's called Young Congregation, I think it's Young Israel of East Flatbush. On a street in Tel Aviv in Israel. Meaning they used the funds from the old shul to buy a new shul. Right, these are just examples of Sephardi Sefer Torah. We said the Tiferes boxes, that's an example of a box of a Sefer Torah. We're holding in Beis. This is Siman Kuf Zayin, Siman 170. You cannot fast at all in the month of Nisan. Even those who have accustomed to fast on the days of the parents' yartzites should not fast. That's why many people make a siyum of a Mesechta Gemara on the day of their parents' yartzeit, so they shouldn't have to have a question of fasting or not. Tainis cholam is anin. A fast for a bad dream, you are allowed to fast because that is considered to be a hana. It's not afflicting oneself. Now a firstborn, they fast on Erev Pesach because
What happened?
notes over here. Sorry about that. I don't know why the computer froze. Okay, we're doing halachas about Yom Tov, how you have to honor Yom Tov, and you have to have joy on Yom Tov. Same way as Shabbos, and we do it by many ways. One of them is by having a meal. When you have a meal, have at least we say Shechianu on every day of Yom Tov. So it means on Sukkot, on the first 2 days, the last 2 days, Rosh Hashanah, and Kippur. We say Shechianu during davening, not during Kiddush. Shavuos on both days, and on the first 2 days of Pesach. The last 2 days of Pesach, we don't say Shechianu, the blessing. And Hashem sustained us and enabled us to reach this time.
It's an exception to the rule.
Because we do something new. We're eating new fruit or something like that. We don't do it on the last days of Pesach. And the reason, of course, Chassidus explains, is because the first days of Pesach are celebrating the exile, the redemption from exile of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. The last days of Pesach are celebrating redemption from Galus, our current exile. And as long as Mashiach didn't come yet, we can the Yom Tov, the last days of Pesach are not complete, and we cannot make a Shechianu. We will make a Shechianu on it when Mashiach comes. So on the last 2 days of Pesach are not a regel from the Atzmai. They are considered to be the 7th day of Pesach. They're not its own Yom Tov, and therefore you don't say a new Shechianu on them. But Nashim B'Shas Lakasenes En Lehem Levarach B'Shechim Mishum Yom Tov. The Shulchan Aruch writes a woman should not make Shechianu by candle lighting, but our minhag is that it says in the Siddur that we make Shechianu, women make a Shechianu right after they make the bracha on the candles. When they light candles, they make a bracha Shechianu. If you lit candles and you said Shechianu by candle lighting, then pay attention not to make a Shechianu during Kiddush. So to a woman who said Shechianu by candle lighting should not say Shechianu by the end of Kol Nidre. Now, next one. You have to make your wife and your children, all love, and all your family and everyone who's with you, you have to make them happy on Yom Tov. Each one the way they do it. Ktanim, what do you give to children? You give them nuts and you give them little trinkets and treats. Hanashim begadim v'tachshitim. Women, you have to buy them jewelry and buy them clothes. As much as you could afford. And you have to put a limit on this on the credit card. I think that's part of this halacha. And men have to be happy in their ways. And the way to make a man happy is to fill up his stomach, right? The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. You may give him meat and wine. Now, it's a mitzvah to drink wine every single day because to be happy, and you have to drink wine every single day of Yom Tov, including Chol Hamoed. Now, the main mitzvah of Simcha is wine. Basar, meat, is not a chiyuv, not an obligation of Simcha, of happiness, the same way as wine. Because in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, there was a korban called a Shamei Simcha, a second peace offering that was brought as Simcha for the holiday, just for the joy of Yom Tov. After the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have the extra korban, the extra sacrifice, so we don't have the extra meat of the shlamim. Therefore, nowadays, we don't have to eat meat as a chiyuv, as an obligation. So there's still a chiyuv, an obligation to eat meat because of to honor the holiday. But on Chol Hamoed, you don't have to eat meat every single day, but you do have to drink wine every single day. The amount you have to drink is a Revii, about 3 ounces. And it begins the first night of Yom Tov. That's when the obligation to be happy and to drink wine every day starts then. And the custom is to have many extra types of dishes on Yom Tiv, more than Shabbos. Could be Yom Tiv, never by Simcha b'Shabbos. Shabbos says you have to honor it, pleasure it. But it says about Yom Tiv is samachta, you should be happy. So happiness is more than just honor. And therefore, you have to have a bigger menu for Yom Tiv. The big Yom Tiv, you come in Shabbos, and Yom Tiv clothes usually more precious, more expensive than the Shabbos clothes. Now, Yom Sheni Shel Pesach, on the second day of Pesach, Ishlasas B'Suda is a davar. Zecher L'Sudas Esther Shais B'Yem Zeshet by Yom Nitla Haman. Haman was hung on the second day of Pesach during the meal of the feast that Esther made for Haman and Achashverosh, and therefore we should do something on the second day of Pesach in order to remember the Suda during the feast. Remember the feast of Haman and Esther. Just don't make Hamantashen whatever you do. And why is Hamantashen of 3 corners and not 4? And then it would need tzitzis. And Haman was hard of hearing. His ears were stuffed with jelly. Right?
So Esther was partially the kind of a Seder then, right?
Not real over the chuslar. It's perhaps. Yeah. Although it's a mitzvah to eat and drink on Yom Tiv, don't eat and drink the whole day. Don't say this mitzvah I'm being careful on. Because it says it should be a day where you don't have to run after your regular self. Hold yourself back, meaning your regular wants for Hashem. And it says it should be a day for you, a day for Hashem. Say partly for Hashem, partly for you. Part of the day you could enjoy for yourself. Part of the day, make sure to learn Torah also on Yom Tiv. And when you eat and drink, you can't keep it only for yourself. You have to invite other people, strangers. You have to invite orphans, widows. Somebody closes his doors, and he gives his family to eat, but no one else is invited. It's not considered a mitzvah happiness. It's considered to be the joy of his own glutton desires. And these are people which it says about them in Hosea, the prophet of doom, that their sacrifices are like the bread of mourners. And this is not they're not honoring the Yom Tiv, but rather they're disrespecting the Yom Tiv. It's a disgrace. This is the excrement of your festivals. This is not the thing. So with this, we will pause over here. Shakayach, thank you for joining.